officially November, which means two things: Mariah Carey singing Whistle Register and holiday baking snacks. Now, if you like gingerbread, French toast, caramel, and eggnog, and you thought to yourself, I wonder if all of these things would be better together. Well, this is the video for you, because we're making a gingerbread French toast with an eggnog caramel, or as we've been lovingly calling it, holy hoop bread. Yeah. So these are all the ingredients. You're going to need 1 egg, milk, honey, molasses, butter, flour, and we're going to need some sugar, ginger, nutmeg, and cinnamon, some baking soda, some fresh ginger we actually used for this recipe, that's right there, and some salt. So the recipe we actually used for the gingerbread here was from Adam Ragusea. I'll leave a link down in the description for that video. We changed a few things, took some embellishments, but for the most part we follow his recipe. So thanks for that. Alright, so we're going to start with the caramel. I've got about, I think, 1 cup of water and 2 cups of sugar in there. We're going to boil that nice and slow, simmer it nice and slow until all of the sugar is dissolved. We're going to get a little bit of bubblage going on and let it cook down until it gets this nice sort of blonde color. I think I could have gone a little darker, but as I had just finished burning and destroying this recipe like 6 times, I was being a little bit gun shy on it and tried to go err on the side of caution. We're going to add in our eggnog at that point, nice and slow with the heat off. If you add all of it all at once, I'm not speaking from experience or anything, but you will have it overflow and have to clean up your entire setup. So maybe don't do that. Learn from my mistakes. We're going to put in about 3 to 5 tablespoons of butter at this point and whisk it up. Just make sure it's nice and incorporated. After this, we use the ice bath method to cool it down before putting it in the fridge. You can probably just leave it at room temperature too, just to cool down before putting it in the fridge, just so it doesn't warm up your fridge. And then it looks fairly watery here, but once it's in the fridge, it will be a much nicer viscosity. By nicer, here I tried to show everybody what the actual end viscosity was after it had been cooled, and this is how I chose to do it, and I realize now that that was a mistake, and I'm very, very sorry for that. Yeah, moving on. At this point, we're going to grab our loaf pan and get it ready with some parchment paper. Now, I imagine you can just oil the thing. I tend to use parchment paper just so I can actually lift it out, and it keeps the pan nice and clean. I'm not going to get any burnage or anything like that. So, you do you, but this was what I chose to do. And as usual, I am a mess. Alright, we're going to preheat our oven to 350 degrees. I do have a convection setting on this oven, but we just did the normal bake. And while that's getting all preheated, we're going to start making our dough. I ended up using cake and pastry flour for this, although I'm sure you could use just regular old all-purpose flour and it would turn out just as good. Just make sure you sift it and you won't get any clumpy clumps. Now we're going to add half a teaspoon of salt, 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, not baking powder. We're going to do 3 tablespoons of ginger, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. We're going to put that all through the sieve as well, so we don't have any big clumps, because that would be an obnoxious thing to bite into. And then we're going to use a whisk and whisk up the dry ingredients so they're nice and incorporated, because once again, we don't want to have a big clump of salt or baking soda or anything. We want it all nice and evenly incorporated. Once again, a little bit of hate, and always end on love. Not a doctor. At this point, we're going to get to the moisture aspect of the actual recipe. So we're going to do 1 cup of milk, and we're just going to use the displacement method to figure out 1/2 cup of molasses and another 1/2 cup of honey. And this is a lot easier than trying to dump all this out and start over. So just use 1 measuring cup, but maybe use a bigger one than I did, because I realized about halfway through there was no way I was going to get the rest of the ingredients into that measuring cup and still be able to not have it overflow. So I put it into a different container and then added our butter. So we're going to use a whole stick of butter here. We're going to put that whole mixture into the microwave at this point. We want it basically warm enough that it's going to melt the butter, but not so hot that when we add the egg at the end here, that it's going to cook it. So there's kind of a balance here. I think I ended up doing about 2 minutes and 20 seconds in the microwave. It'll change depending on your microwave and everything else. So just go until the butter is basically melted and whisk it up so it incorporates. Then we're going to add our ginger, fresh ginger at this point. Then we're going to almost forget the egg, and then we're going to whisk that egg in at the end here before adding it finally to our dry ingredients. Don't skip the heating it up step. As soon as you actually incorporate the wets into the dries, you can see that some of the reaction from the baking soda will actually start to make it rise up, and I think that's why you get such a fluffy bread at the end. It really allows the baking soda to do its job before the outside of the batter has sort of solidified from the cooking process, so you get a much fluffier end result. I was actually very concerned that all of that batter was not going to go into the pan, but it turned out to be perfect. I put a pan underneath it just to make sure any drippings, if it overflowed, got caught, and it actually didn't end up doing that, so bang on perfect amount. It just rose above the top of the pan just a little bit with a nice little dome, which was awesome. About an hour later, even though there's this little spot on the top that looks almost undone, if you poke it, you can tell it's not. Use a cake tester or a toothpick, just stick it in and pull it out, and it's nice and clean, you know it's done. I'm not going to make any comments on that. This is a classy channel. If you are having dirty thoughts, that's on you. Alright, so at this point we're going to get right to the French toastening. If you've never done French toast, it's not hard to do. We're just going to get some eggs. We're going to do 2 eggs here. I'm going to basically be doing everything they tell you not to do while making a French toast, but this is just the way I like to do it. So there. We're going to do 2 eggs. I'm going to add a little tiny bit of salt. Yes, I am going to add some salt. Then I'm going to add some whole milk. I usually use heavy cream, but I didn't have any left in the fridge. I'm going to make sure that's nice and incorporated so there's no big chunks. And then I actually did end up using just a little bit of sugar here as well. They also tell you not to use a fork because it'll denature the protein, but what doesn't denature the protein, especially cooking? So anyway, we've taken a nice thick slice of that gingerbread and we're going to just give that a quick dip like you're sink washing your boys before date night. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you should know. Now, I actually really don't like French toast when it's super soggy, so I tend to not go super overboard with the dipping and the leaving in the custard. But with this bread, it was a lot thicker and more dense, so I was able to let it soak in a little longer. If you don't let it soak in at all, you're going to end up with just the barest outside that has that egg wash in it. If you go too long, it'll go right to the middle, and I find that then it doesn't get cooked. That's just my preference on that. If you're worried that this is going to happen, just put a lid on it while it's cooking on both sides, and that'll help. Once those bad boys are nice and golden brown on both sides, which is a little harder to tell with this recipe because of the actual gingerbread color, they're done and ready to be plated up. Now let's be real, this is not a meal that you're going to have every day. But for just a nice present for you and your friends or family, it couldn't be better. It's got such a nice balance between the flavors of the gingerbread and the sweetness of the eggnog caramel and that little bit of extra icing sugar on top. Everything melts together into this unctuous, absolutely amazing mouthfeel. Just an absolute gift for your mouth hole. And with that, that's it. I hope everyone liked today's episodes of Doing Date Night, and if you try it out, let me know how it goes. As always, I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave some comments, share it with a friend, and don't forget to hit that bell so you never miss an episode. Thanks for watching. Bye!